crisis and challenge. Many of you will now think, where will I go in my life? Where will I go in my job? And where will this whole crisis end? We have someone today with us who can tell us a lot about crisis, communication, and how to get all over it. Motivational speaker, Kayode Damali. Hello and welcome.
Hey, Niels, how's it going?
Very good. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm really excited to be doing this podcast with you. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us here today. And of course, the first question is, I saw you on TV. You've been at The Apprentice. You've been all over the media. And of course, the main question, I know it's a quite broad one, but how did you get where you are today? Because I think when we look at your CV, it's not the classical kind of career thing, is it?
It's not. And it's funny you said that because I've had to go over my CV quite recently, actually, to put a lot of different stuff on it. Because when I generate my LinkedIn, you know how you can generate a CV on LinkedIn? It's like a great scroll. It's like a Torah, the amount of things on it. So I've had to really try to sort it out recently. And I think the way I've been able to get to where I am, I think it's not been linear and it's not been easily replicable, if that makes sense. I don't want it to say it where it's going to be, you've got to do X, Y, Z to do A, B, C kind of thing, because it's been one of them ones where I think a lot of things have been fell into my lap because I put myself in particular circumstances. So for example, because I didn't do well at college, because I failed college, I was forced to go to a university 200 miles north, being near Manchester. I never really left London before. I'm from South London initially, but that got kind of put into my lap. And then when I kind of went to university in Manchester, that's when I really started to recreate myself. And I essentially tried to just put myself forward for everything. You know, even if it was a case of I might not like it or might not know about it, I put myself forward for it to anyway. And by doing that over years, and years, I've been able to get myself in many different pies, you know, by essentially doing everything that I could.
So when you said you failed college, and of course, not only will we have some people who listen to this and might be in the same situation, we also might have business owners or other people who work in free enterprise who have kids, and they might see that they are not doing particularly well. You still went to university. And at the moment, many people, especially right now, think, well, there is crisis. Maybe I just skip uni. I just directly go for getting paid work. What is your take on the often asked questions, university, yes or no?
Yeah, it is a big question, whether you do decide to go to university or not. And I mean, it's different now. I had to make that decision for me literally 10 years ago now, so in 2010. Back then, when it was for me to decide what I was going to be doing next after college, it was just like you just went. It's just a case of you just go to uni. It wasn't a case of, I didn't really look at anything. It just seemed like the next logical step. But just you go. It's like, you know, you become 8 years old and 9 years old and 10 years old. It's just something that you did. But I think now young people, they have so much choice. You know, do you decide to go out and do work, or do you go to university? But there's also a third option. You know, do you do a degree apprenticeship? You know, that is still getting paid in the field, but it's also studying for a degree at the same time. I'm a big advocate of university because I always felt that university changed my life. So I loved it, and I can't thank university enough. But I am fully aware that it's not for everybody. You know, there are other options out there for people, and it's more expensive now as well. So when I was making my decision to go to university, the fees were, I mean, they are still expensive, but they're around the 3K mark per year. But now they're at the 9K mark per year in the UK anyway. So that's something you also need to think about. Otherwise, it's going to be a very expensive experience if you don't utilize that degree afterwards.
So when you say you had to go to university 200 miles up north, let's face it, many people would not appreciate doing so, especially when you grow up in London and you are a Londoner. People prefer to stay in the area. What motivated you to say, I'm going to leave my circumstances completely, go to an area where I most likely do not know many people, and still take that chance? Because let's face it, many people will say, I then choose a different path, or I wait a year, maybe I'm lucky next year. What motivated you to do this big step?
I think for me, it's because I didn't have a choice. It was either stay in London, because that was the Manchester Metropolitan University where I went to. They were the only one who gave me a space. Because I failed college, you have to go through something called a clearing process, which is essentially cold calling universities. it's like the best way I can describe it is like Mary and Joseph, knocking at doors. Can you let me in? Can you let me in? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it's like. So phoning university is only Manchester Met. So it's like, right, I either stay in London where we were me and my circle of friends, unfortunately, we were quite naughty. So I was either staying in that circle where when I did go to university, most of them ended up in prison. So do I stay in that circle or do I go 200 miles up north? And it was just that. It's like, right, I might as well. I've got nothing else here in London apart from a bad influence. So that's what kind of pushed me to do it, because either stay or go. I always say I couldn't change the people around me, so I had to change the people around me, literally. And that was probably the best move I ever made.
So, and after university, you decided to go into the speaking industry. Let's face it, especially in the UK again, or even in the US, aren't parents the one who normally say, go get a proper job, get employed somewhere? You go there in the morning, you have a 9-to-5 job, save income. So why did you go to the way riskier path of speaking, professional speaking?
For me, speaking was something that I was quite blessed with from being at school, 15, 16 years old. I was always that person, very vocal in a classroom, etc. When I went to college, again, I was quite vocal. I was that person who was very confident. Again, at university, I was that person hosting shows. I was like, if there was something to do publicly, I was the person doing it. So I was I picked up those skills and was able to develop them throughout my school life and throughout my university life. And then when I graduated, I then became the vice president and governor of the university. And I was also director of the National Union of Students, being the NUS. And during those roles, they were very, very, I was essentially leading the Students' Union and leading the university within the team. So I had to be doing talks to students. I've had to be motivating them. So it was a very logical next step. And regarding your point about parents pushing you to do, traditional jobs, I think that when they came up from London, because they never visited me when I was in Manchester to the university. They didn't visit me until they came to my graduation. And when they saw the influence I had on my peers and students around me, when I walked across the stage, when they heard the eruption of me collecting my degree, they realized that, wow, like this guy is really, I don't think, especially for my siblings, I don't think they realized how much impact I made. And so then when I finished my terms in office, it's very natural for me to get speaking inquiries. My speaking career developed very organically. To this day, I probably maybe 1% of my bookings have been me doing outreach. 99% has literally been people coming to me. And that's through me just building myself naturally and organically throughout the university system.
Excellent. So, and you appeared on TV, as we know, with The Apprentice. How did that happen then? Because I think there are many people who want to be on TV. The Apprentice will be contacted by hundreds, if not thousands of people every year. So how did that happen, that you got the exposure to be seen by the whole nation?
Yeah, numbers-wise, I don't want to underplay myself. It's not even hundreds or thousands. It's like 50,000. It's crazy. Do you get what I mean? And the Apprentice isn't my first rodeo. That's the thing. I was on The Apprentice in 2018, but I've been in TV since 2015, did it 2016. I've been doing it every year since 2015. So again, another very logical progression. But the reason how I got onto The Apprentice, I actually applied for it because at the time I was running an events business. My events business is specializing in student nights, so nightlife parties, coach parties, coach trips, etc. Yeah. But at that time in 2018, from when I started in 2014, there was a decline. Because my main market were operated in the Northwest, the universities there were shutting down. So I was losing my market essentially. So I needed to make a change. So I remember literally it's in the January of 2018, like the deadline of the apprentice application. I think the night before I had a very bad event which said to me that, man, Kayode, you need to wrap this up, man. It's not happening. I realized I was forcing it. So I said, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So the apprentice, I applied for it. And then the next day they said that, yeah, I'm through to the next stage. So that's how I decided to get onto the apprentice.
Excellent. Excellent. So when we're wrapping this whole interview up now, some people now will be in the situation where they say, we had a crisis, maybe I'm self-employed, or I think about becoming self-employed, or maybe they even think, maybe I should stop to do my self-employment and go back to employment. And they lack motivation. They lack the drive where they say, I have this fire inside me and somehow it's gone. You as a professional motivational speaker, what are Kayode Damali's top 3 tips what they should do right now?
Did you say top 3 or top? Did you say top 3?
Top 3, yeah.
Top 3, okay, we've got to do 3 of them. I think the first thing is to understand and accept the circumstances that you're in, not to beat yourself up too much about it. Yes, you might have lost your job. Yes, you're self-employed. Yes, the contracts might have slowed down, etc. So I think to understand, not to beat yourself up over it, but I think a lot of us do that. Secondly, I think it's a time for us to reevaluate what it is we really want to do. Because even though this crisis is taking over the world right now and everything's on stop, it doesn't mean that your thought process should be on stop. Because what you've been doing up until now, whether it's your day job, what you're doing as self-employed, have you really fully been enjoying it all this time? Or is now time for you to really sit down and say to yourself, like, right, what is it that I would perhaps rather do now that I've got the chance to think about something else? And then thirdly, once you kind of have that thought process within yourself is what you want to do next is to now put steps and action into place actually doing it. So that when the lockdown does ease or when things do go back to normal, you're ready to hit the ground running. So now's the time to really sit down and knuckle down and plan what it is that you want to do. So there's your three. Do I need to wrap them up or is that okay?
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So, of course, I'm going to put your contact data in the show notes of this podcast. So when people want to get in touch with you, have a chat with you, or book you for their conference, convention, or event, they can get in touch with you directly. So at the end of this interview, there's only one thing for me left to say. Kayode, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.